Certainly ever since the Mandela effect hit me real strong, and this reality being fake hit me very, very real. The idea of us being in a simulation has been a strong notion, and this idea that we live amongst many NPCs kind of naturally springs forward to the idea that we're in a game, and a game is full of NPCs. Non-playable characters, but in the a lot of communities online, they are considered soulless entities, filler people, background people, people that are here to serve a purpose for those who are higher souls or whatever. So if you find yourself and think of yourself as something other than an NPC, which is, still up to great debate. Who's to say that we all aren't just NPCs that are just waking up from the artificial environment and reality that we find ourselves in? Who knows? But I was just listening to a guy talking about, I've listened to a few people that have talked about NPCs and how they're background people and filler people and soulless entities, and they might be here to be to add context to the experience, to add adversity to the experience for those of us who are looking for a challenge in life, to grow better, that sort of thing. I've heard a lot of different theories about NPCs and how many there are. I heard one guy say that 55% of the population is NPCs. How he comes up with that number, I don't know. Then I heard John Nolan yesterday say that like 70% are NPCs. Again, how we come up with these numbers, I don't know. But even if you do, like John did, a disclaimer saying, now, I don't think that we should ever hurt the NPCs. We should never do anything bad against the NPCs. Like that gets you off the hook. That gets you, I can create this idea that there's this subhuman out there, even though we don't have any way of identifying those who are. I say that now. Somebody's probably got some kind of a watch. Tomorrow there'll be a YouTube video about how to test if somebody's an NPC. That would be. I'm sure it's out there. Let's say somebody eventually comes up with a qualifying test, kind of like a Turing experiment for the NPC. They come up with their own gauge. So you can say all day long, don't mistreat NPCs, assuming you even believe in them. That still doesn't stop anything. Eventually, where this leads, it's quite clear where this leads is eventually there's going to be a news piece where some crazy person out there did an attack on a bunch of innocent people because in their mind they were just taking out the NPCs and it was no big deal. Or it was even justified, like the NPCs were evil and they needed to be eliminated. I don't know. I see where this conversation is going, and it concerns me when we talk too much about a large group of unidentified people as being NPCs, and then somebody coming up with some way in their mind of identifying them, and then deciding to do whatever they want to do with them. It's got a bad ending. That's the only thing I'm saying. So for that reason alone, I'm not encouraging the notion that we live amongst many NPCs. In fact, I would much rather say I'm just an NPC starting to realize that the environment I'm in is a little bigger than what, originally, before I was in a dream, and now I realize this is one big fake environment that I am a part of. And yes, that means that a good portion of me is fake as well. Of course, I kind of cling to this idea that there's this deeper, higher, greater portion of myself that's eternal, and I'm just occupying or sharing this physical space in this physical body with a body and a egoic mind that is just as fake as the reality around me. And of course, that body, wants to believe that this is that, like, it's all that has ever existed, the NPC body, NPC mind, the egoic mind does not want to give control or hand over the keys to the car to another eternal entity that happens to be part of it. But it is a partnership in many ways. That's just the way that's the model I have in my mind, that we're all NPCs, but we also have a spirit that's whether or not it's in control or whether or not the NPC is in control. That's the big question, because sometimes the NPC is just taking full control and the eternal part of us is not really there functioning the way it should. Now, biblically, you could equate that to particularly the New Testament, talking about the struggle between the spirit and the flesh. Many times in the New Testament, we hear that analogy that the old man, the man of sin, the man of flesh, that would be the NPC. That would be the one that's driven by very carnal-based needs and desires, and it fights for control. And Paul would say, and this is the big argument that people use against reincarnation, because there's a verse where Paul says we should be dead. We should be dead. Sorry, I'm having trouble spitting it out. We should be dead to sin once and for all. In the same way, we should live one life, and after that, face judgment. Now, I think a proper interpretation of that is that there's an intention to only have to do this one time and be done and move on. But I do feel like, internally, reincarnation makes a lot of sense. The evidence that it exists is so abundant. I really do feel like that there is a cycling, a reincarnation cycle. Now, whether or not that's whether or not that's a trap. John Nolan is a big David Icke fan, and he's pushing and getting behind the idea that this is one big soul trap. Don't go into the light. Look around. The first light is the evil light, that sort of thing. That's a whole other topic. But the whole NPC concept, I'm afraid, could go very negative if somebody takes it the wrong way. Another thing John Nolan had said, is that if you're a true spirit being, if you're an eternal, elevating, whatever you want to call it, advancing, ascending, that's the word that's so popular. If you're a true ascending spirit being, you can take no part in corporate America. Like, there's just no way you can be a part of this beast system, because every fiber of your being would fight against it, and if you tried to go into it, you would die or get sick and ill, and your system would break down and fight against it. So I had to laugh and say, well, I must not be an ascending spiritual being, because I'm in that corporate environment. All right, so I had to pause because somebody just walked up on me, but basically I chuckled at the him saying that if you're a true spiritual ascending being, you just can't be a part of the whole corporate America scene. And I get that. There's a very ugly vibration that's here, and I've been working on, my lot in life is having to work for these organizations, like, from the very beginning. Most of my life, I've been falling in the role of supervisor, manager, whatever, pretty much manager, on salary. So you could kill yourself working for the system, working more than you should. And even though everybody, and even corporate America, will say you need to have work-life balance and all that crap. I mean, they say that, but they don't mean it. That's what I mean by crap. I mean, yes, it's true. Everybody that gets to the end of their life and the retirement, they all look back and say, man, I worked way too much. I put way too many hours in at the office. I sacrificed family and relationships to do this, to be a minion and slave for the beast system. And everybody, that's just a given. That's there. Everybody feels that way. But there's a true vibe in corporate America. The signal that you're getting, the unspoken signal and programming that you're getting, is that you should sacrifice your life. You should work all the time. You should. I mean, as much as the the rhetoric will be you shouldn't. It's the opposite. It's there. It's this, you've got to give, you've got to be a slave. The slave mentality is strong, and nobody's gonna complain that you're giving all of yourself over to the corporate system. However, if you complain or mention that you're giving too much of your personal life over to the corporate system, you'll get slapped back with, well, you need better time management skills. It's all your fault. If you work too much and you work too hard to keep your job in the system, it's because you don't have the skills to be successful. That's all that's going to get you. There's no point in complaining. I've just played the game with them way too long. Now, I will say that John is probably alienating, or at least somewhat offending, a large portion of his audience, because very few out there have really been able to get into that role where they're self-employed or not needing the system in some way. Most jobs are somehow connected to large companies that are publicly traded. And even if you're not working for a company that's publicly traded, I've worked for every kind of company, from privately held to big corporate entities. And that corporate, I mean, the one that I'm working for now is so evil, it might as well be BlackRock itself. I mean, I'm way up in the beast system, but I've worked for others that were privately held and smaller, but still that corporate vibe, that that invisible force that's molding people, that's indoctrinating people, it's still very similar across the board. I always just would laugh at HR people because they, all the training programs that are out there, they're better named indoctrination programs, because every training program is meant to be just for you to get indoctrinated, to go along with the hive mind of the system and just be that person that they want you to be. It's not really teaching you, like, it's not a real education. It's just a mind programming agenda, a brainwashing agenda. That's what we're all in. I don't care if you work for BlackRock or if you work for some small independent company. That vibe, I swear, is everywhere I've gone. It's still in there, still ingrained. That and of course it's ingrained with our major media, our Hollywood, our entertainment, our news, it's everywhere. And maybe all the NPCs are here to help. And John suggests this too, that the NPCs are here to help voice those agendas, to help steer the true beings that have souls, to steer them along, because the idea is that the herd can move them in the same direction. The numbers of beings, whether they're NPCs or not, will help move the real ones in that direction, so that they do create the reality that the controllers want to see happen. Maybe I get a little nervous about identifying or calling out 70% of the population as being NPCs, because I fear that someday somebody's going to take that to a level that's just very, very bad, very wrong. So I guess my T-shirt would be "Love your NPCs" or whatever. Now, I am in this beast system pretty bad, and it might be, it honestly, it might be setting me back. It might be taking a toll on my soul. It might be killing my health. It may very well be all of those things, because I know it's not a place that I feel normal in. I don't feel like I fit. So very possibly that's having that effect. I don't know. I know that I need a job. That's it. And if there was another way, I would certainly do it. If I could somehow be self-employed, that'd be great. But or win the lottery. I don't know. If I didn't need money, I hate that I need it, but it'd be great if I didn't. So I'm curious what other people's situations are like. How many out there are living in that beautiful state where they don't depend on anybody. They don't depend on the system at all. They're completely free and unfettered. That just would be a great spot to be. Back when I was Mandela affected, um, I had this crazy dream. So we're talking we're talking 2016. And I had this dream that Bitcoin was like the beast, or like the beast come rising up, like Bitcoin was the rising beast. I had this dream. I even joked. I said, if I want to be rich, I just take all the money I have and put it in Bitcoin right now. Let's say I put $10,000 into Bitcoin back then, which was under $1,000 a share. I think now it's worth like $63,000 a share. And I wouldn't do it out of principle because I didn't want to be, this is so hypocritical because I'm working for the beast in this corporate environment. But back then I didn't want to put money as an investment into the beast because to me that was going too far. That was a violation of principle. Also, I don't know that my wife would have agreed to do it, but because of my crazy dream, I'm seeing reality change all around me, and I'm having this Bitcoin dream, and that probably would be a hard sell in my household. But had I done it, yeah, we could have cashed that in for quite a bit, but I didn't. And it is funny though. I mean, I'm working for the system, so it's really, I don't suppose it's any different than if I had bought the 10 shares of Bitcoin back in 2016. Anyway, sometimes I wondered, would I ever want to go back to the ignorance is bliss mentality and just go along and believe the news and believe the world the way it is, and just uh, no, I don't think I could. I don't want to ever go back to that state of being where I'm just not aware of the environment I'm in. I'd much rather understand this world for what it is. And who knows, maybe there's some positive purpose that I'm in this beast system. And I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I'm sitting here just clueless as to why I'm even in this environment. But it's certainly it's quite a ride. I don't know, and I'm curious what your notions are on NPCs and working for corporate America, whether it's good or if it's a sin. Um, how much should we be part of this world? I mean, we always like to use the verse, "I'm in this world, but not of it." But how closely should we be working in it? Is this a a soul violation? When I say a sin, I mean, am I doing some damage to my soul by just even working here? Possibly. I don't know. I'm just putting it out there and just curious what people's thoughts are about NPCs. How should we talk about them? How should we, view them? How do you even determine if somebody is an NPC? Or how do we know that we're not NPCs? Should we? I mean, this is all thanks to Inspired and John Nolan. He brought all these questions to the forefront. Should we be working for the beast system like I am right now, or should we turn our backs on it completely and go get a farm and be self-sufficient? I mean, I would love to, honestly. That would be like a dream. But am I actually doing soul damage here? Am I sinning? Am I violating some higher principle by just being in this system? And I'd like to hear your argument one way or another. I mean, I don't, don't be afraid to hurt my feelings here. I'm fine. I'm a big boy. I can take it. If you think that I'm crucifying my soul by being part of this horrible system, just curious. But anyway, I'll wrap it up with that. Y'all have a great day, and God bless.